These are 10 things that I struggled with so much that just... Hey there, my handsome and pretty little Cobras, and welcome back to the Cobras Nest. For those of you who are new, my name is Mignon Cobra and I make minimalism videos. Today's video is going to be a really fun one, and that is going to be 10 toxic minimalism habits to quit. So without further ado, let's just get into the video. Let's get it, let's go! Woo! Before we get started, as usual, some housekeeping. If you wish to help with my channel, consider checking out my Patreon, and if not, then just help me out with the algorithm by giving this video a thumbs up and a like, and let's get right into the list. I'm making this video because I have been a minimalist for 6 years and I have made so many mistakes that were just so painful, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna group it all up together and make a video, 10 toxic minimalism habits you ought to quit. So yeah, that's what this is. So number 1, can't have duplicates. You will not believe the amount of pain it caused me thinking I couldn't have duplicates. I'll be the first to say it. I think the no duplicate rule has got to be the stupidest minimalism advice I ever came across or heard. If I could do minimalism all over again, that is just one thing I wish that I didn't come across. Can't have duplicates. I know minimalism looks different for everybody, but for me, it was so painful. I let go of a lot of good stuff because I felt I couldn't have duplicates, couldn't have more than one shirt, couldn't have more than one bag. One of my most successful and popular videos is, no, my purse was a plastic bag, and in that video, I got rid of my bags that were so expensive, one being as expensive as $300, all because I couldn't have a bag, or I couldn't have a duplicate. And before I knew it, I went down the rabbit hole and I ended up having no bags. Just trying to follow the stupid principle of can't have duplicates. You know what? Like, guys, just to shit on this rule, I have duplicates of almost everything that I own. So don't bother with this toxic minimalism guideline. Number 2. Have to be frugal as well. I know that minimalism and frugality tend to marry very well, and I have mentioned this in my videos, but there's just something that I want to let you guys know, that if you're thinking minimalism means you gotta be frugal too, please, they're not the same thing. They are completely not the same thing. I know a lot of bougie minimalists, you know, they buy iPhones, they buy BMWs. Don't let anybody tell you that you need to be frugal to be a minimalist. I'm not saying you can't be, you know, frugal and a minimalist, you know, good for you. That's totally a choice, but there's a lot of people I know who are frugal and stock up on a lot of stuff and are by no means somebody that would fit or even themselves consider a minimalist. So yeah, if you feel like, you know what, you gotta pick cheaper options, or you can't buy this or you can't buy that, where do we draw the line? I don't think we ought to be putting this type of pressure on each other, saying that, yeah, if you're a minimalist, you can't buy this and you can't buy that. Oh, aren't you a minimalist? Forget that. If you want to buy your nice things, your bougie ass things, go for it. Do not let anybody in the minimalism community tell you otherwise. Number 3, it needs to fit in a luggage. So I want to tell you guys, your stuff doesn't have to fit in a luggage. I used to make my life impossible in the dorm room, where I was like, all my stuff needs to fit in a luggage. So it's just like a rotation of buy, declutter to fit this ridiculous standard. I mean, yes, fine, it was worth it in the end, because when I did move, it was really easy to just pack my stuff and go on with my life. And I just think that that's not a standard that we need to be reaching. If you want it to fit in a luggage, like, that's your prerogative, but we shouldn't be striving to be good minimalist, thinking, you know what, like, my stuff fits in a luggage. What does that do for you? Like, unless you're like a vagabond and you're traveling the world, every 2 weeks, don't punish yourself. A lot of us live in homes where we have boudoirs, we have closets, and we have rooms, we have bedrooms, we have guest rooms, we have a lot of stuff, and that is actually a privilege. It's an abundance and a privilege to be able to have this surplus of items. So please, don't feel like minimalism must include you being able to fit all of your stuff into a luggage. Number 4, decluttering obsessively. Along with point 1 about like can't have duplicates, the decluttering obsession is one of the most toxic minimalism habits that I encountered in my journey, and I wish that upon nobody. It's so wasteful, and it's so like heartbreaking to declutter your things, especially when you reach the point where like there's nothing else to declutter. So you start decluttering the stuff you actually like just to keep the decluttering high going. It's awful and it's not worth it. I think even in KonMari's book, she says that people will reach a point where you feel comfortable with the amount of stuff that you have. And also in the book Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki, he did mention that there's no pride to be had in people who brag about how little they own. So there's really no point in being obsessive with decluttering. I mean, if that's where it's taking you on your journey, go for it. That's totally where I ended up, but decluttering obsessively will do you no good. Just get rid of things that don't fit your life, you didn't want it, and serve no functionality. Everything else, if it's still functional, you still want it, keep it, for God's sake, keep it. Number 5, decluttering other people's stuff. This is like the golden rule of minimalism. Your journey is just your journey. And that's one of the mistakes that I started to kind of encounter once I ran out of stuff of mine to declutter. I was like touching and fiddling with Will's stuff. It's like, no, it's not your stuff to declutter. Even if somebody asks you for help, don't do it, don't do it. Something gets decluttered, they're gonna blame you, be like, you did this to me. Like, unless you're willing to take full responsibility for what happens to other people's stuff, my advice to you is don't declutter other people's stuff. You feel like, I'm gonna help them. Nobody's gonna take it that way. Nobody is going to appreciate you decluttering their stuff for them. Like, I can tell you right now, you got the best of intentions. It's not gonna end well for you or for them. Just don't do it to yourself. And I also just want to address that in terms of like, don't declutter other people's stuff. You do it from a place of respect. You respect that person, and by respecting their things is because ultimately it's out of respect for them. So if you're like touching and decluttering or throwing away other people's things, and whether or not you have their permission, especially if you don't have their permission, you're disrespecting them. So please don't do it, especially if it's somebody you care and love. Number 6. Cant Shop, can't buy anything. A lot of people have this misconception that you can't buy anything, and this is one of the mistakes that I made. But I mean, primarily I made this mistake because I was trying to pay off my student loans. I was really in no position to be buying anything anyway. But the point that I'm trying to explain is that minimalism is being minimal, and that means you can buy things and you should be intentional with how you buy things. When you buy things, there should be intentionality behind it. There shouldn't be this like whipping myself on the back and I can't own anything but a wooden bowl, and maybe throw that out the window too and just lick water from a pool like a dog level of stoidism. Minimalism is different for everybody. I'm not knocking anybody who wants to go down that path, but the idea that like you can't buy anything, and if I bought something, like I'm just gonna hate myself, like I'm a bad minimalist, that's just like such a toxic mentality to have. Minimalism is supposed to be there to improve your life and to help you make better life decisions. But if you're gonna go around emotionally abusing yourself because you bought something, I'm laughing because I know if Will sees this, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I used to do this to myself if I bought clothes, if I bought shoes, or if even if I bought food, or if I bought something non-essential. I was like, whoosh, whoosh. And once I was done whipping myself, I'd go cry to Will. So please, it's okay. You have permission from me. If you need to buy it, if you need it, or even if you want it, it's okay. You can buy it. Number 7, you can only wear black, gray, monochrome. This one drove me absolutely insane. In the earlier days of minimalism, the only minimalist items that I could find or see on the internet were everyone who was considered a minimalist in like the little corner of the internet wore black or white. You know what? If that's for you, great, but I found for myself that wearing black day in, day out was just awful. I felt like I was at the morgue. I just felt like there was no color and no rhyme or reason to my life, and I was like, no, please stop. So if you're feeling like, you know what, the black and white thing is just not working for you, that's okay, let it go. If it's not for you, that's fine. Like, try it, see if it is. If it is, yay! If it's not, welcome to the other side of minimalism. We wear other colors. For myself, I wear a lot of cream, beiges, browns, and as I mentioned before, there's the Afro minimalist, and she wears a lot of red, which is not a very stereotypical minimalist color, and I put these in hyphens because it's toxic. You can wear any color you want. You know what? You can wear any color and any mismatch. You can wear the rainbow, and you're still a minimalist if you think yourself a minimalist. Number 8, can't own anything. This is like in the extreme days of my minimalism. I had this toxic habit of just like, I can't own anything, and things are holding me back. And I'm gonna say it again, as I've always said it, nothing but you is holding you back. Your stuff is not holding you back. Your shoe collection is not holding you back. Your clothes are not holding you back. Ain't nobody but you holding you back. So stop blaming your stuff for saying, you know what, this and this and this is the reason why I'm not a minimalist. Stop. Just stop. You are a minimalist if you decide to be a minimalist. Your version of minimalism, the amount of stuff that you have, is solely dictated by you, and it should not be some sort of sick game to be comparing with others, because and essentially you haven't left the rat race if you are still comparing to others. If you're still feeling like what I have is more or less than somebody else, then what are you doing? Like, minimalism is for you to find your true self, and if you're still comparing to others, you've like entirely missed the purpose. So I think this is another toxic minimalism habit of this obsession with owning less. As somebody went down the rabbit hole, let me tell you, just to save you the grief, there's nothing there. You will baseline, you'll get used to not having a lot of stuff, you'll go back to feeling a certain kind of way. Don't really think that we ought to be glorifying owning less as like the final destination of minimalism. It's not. Let's just stop. Minimalism is a tool, not a destination. Number 9, comparing yourself to the minimalism Jones. This is another point that I also suffered, and I really wish that I could stop anybody else who's starting to indulge in this toxic minimalism habit. I mean, honestly, this habit in general, just comparing yourself to others, you're not gonna win. There's nothing good comes from comparing yourself with others. Like, I understand, like, maybe you feel like you want to motivate yourself and you feel inspired by others, but that's different from like comparing yourself, especially with minimalists, thinking, you know what, she owns this or he doesn't own this, and should I? Ask yourself what kind of life you would like to live and how do you feel most fulfilled, and those are your answers to how you want to live your minimalism life. Number 10, thinking stuff is the devil. This is something that I definitely suffered of. I was demonizing the shit out of my material possessions. I was like, I can't be a fulfilled individual because I own 3 pairs of shoes. I can't be living my best life because I got clothes in my closet. It was just such a toxic mindset that I had. Instead of thinking and looking at the abundance of the things that I had, like, because this stuff cost me money and I paid for it with my blood, sweat, and tears. Like, I went to work to earn the money to pay for these things, and yet somehow when I converted into things, I had the audacity to put down my things and put down myself for owning these things. I want to tell you that if you're in your minimalism journey and this is starting to happen to you, please forgive yourself. Let it go. You own what you own for a reason. Moving forward, what would you like to keep in your life? And cherish it while you're at it. And what do you feel is no longer serving you? So thank it and let it go. Don't stay within that zone of thinking material things or material possessions are something terrible, something evil, something holding you back. In all honesty, nothing is really holding you back. And if you're feeling like it's your material possessions, which are inanimate objects, are causing you grief, there's something much more deeper. There's an underlying issue that needs to be addressed, and taking it out on your material possessions is just not the way to go, because 1, you won't address what's really bothering you, and 2, you're gonna have to go out and rebuy what you needed. So you're just gonna continue the cycle of declutter, binge, purge, rebuy, declutter, binge, purge, rebuy, and just going in a circle. And it's like, please, I don't want that for you. So if you're feeling like you're taking out on your material possessions, something is definitely bothering you, let's just address that instead. Okay, so there we have it. Those are 10 toxic minimalism habits that we all should be quitting, because I quit them a long time ago and I'm just so much better for it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.